Good morning students, Sai Ram. Myself Sridevi Rao will be starting with the session today. So we had started this lesson, Life Processes in Living Organism Part 2. We had started with the lesson and we learnt about asexual reproduction in unicellular organisms and multicellular. And under unicellular organisms, we learnt about binary fission, we learnt about multiple fission, and we learnt about budding in yeast. And in multicellular organisms, we learnt about the asexual reproduction like fragmentation, regeneration, budding in hydra, vegetative propagation, and spore formation. Hope you are clear with this concept, children. So now let us start the next part, which is the sexual reproduction in plants. First we will start what is meant by sexual reproduction. We'll see. Okay. What is sexual reproduction? It always occurs with the help of two germ cells. We have learnt about what is meant by germ cells. The cells which are stem cells and somatic cells are all other cells, and these germ cells are reproductive cells. We have learnt about this. So there are two gametes involved in sexual reproduction. One is the female gamete and the male gamete. These are the two germ cells involved. One is what? Male gamete and female gamete. And in sexual reproduction, there are two processes taking place in both, even in plants as well as animals. There are two processes taking place. One is gamete formation. Gametes are formed by the meiosis. So we learnt about meiosis, children. In the end of meiosis, how many cells are formed? 4 haploid, meiosis 2. Okay, we learned that 4 haploid chromosomes, you get chromosome. So with mitosis there will be diploid, the number of chromosomes remains the same, but in meiosis the chromosome number is reduced into by half. That means it is haploid. Haploid means the chromosomes number is divided into half. So the chromosome number is reduced to half, hence haploid gametes are formed. So haploid means reduced into half. So in gamete formation, what is formed? Haploid gamete. That means gametes are formed by meiosis. In meiosis, chromosome number divides into half. Therefore, you get haploid gametes are formed. Then next step is the fertilization. After the haploid gametes, there is the fusion. There is fusion of the male and female haploid gametes, and you will get a diploid zygote. Diploid means what? You get 2n. That is, the number is doubled. Okay. So when haploid means that was half of the chromosome, here that becomes chromosome number is doubled here. Diploid means to double. The diploid zygote is formed in this process by the union of haploid male and haploid female gametes. What happens after the zygote is formed? It is divided. Mitotic division takes place in the zygote, and it forms into a new individual. Okay, so first with meiosis, two haploid gametes are formed, that is male gamete and female, and when these two female haploid gametes fuse or unite, they will get a zygote which is diploid. Okay, and this diploid zygote will undergo mitotic division, and then embryo is formed, and this embryo develops into a new individual. This is the sexual reproduction in both plants and animals. Now first let us learn in this session, we learn only sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, now we'll see what is structure of flower. All this we'll see. So flower is a structural unit of sexual reproduction in plants. So in a plant, which part is involving reproduction? That is the flower. It consists of 4 whorls. We have already learnt all these whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. They are arranged from outside to inside. Outside part is the calyx, then comes the petals of the corolla, and inside you have the gynoecium, and around it is the androecium. You can see that. Okay. Androecium and gynoecium are called essential whorls. What are they called? Essential whorls because they are involved in reproduction. And calyx and corolla are called as accessory whorls because calyx means what? The sepals, the green part of the flower. And corolla is the colorful, the petals. They are called as the accessory whorls because they support the plant, and they help in petals help in pollination. So they are accessory whorls, and which are the essential whorls which are involved in reproduction, that is the androecium and the gynoecium. Androecium means what? Male part of the flower. Gynoecium means female part of the flower. Okay, see, this is the structure of the flower. You can see here, this is the calyx, colorful petals or the corolla, and three parts are there in the gynoecium. Under that, style, stigma and ovary. You can see here style, this is the topmost part of the flower, that is called as the stigma. Okay, the middle pipe like structure is called as the style, and the base is called as the ovary. So the gynoecium, that is female part of the flower, contains stigma, style and ovary, and the male part contains, this is the male part, you can see here, anther and filament. This is the gynoecium, anther and filament. So you saw the structure of flower. Calyx, which is green in color, then comes the corolla, which is the petals. Calyx are also called as sepals, you all know that. Corolla, this is the petals which are colorful, which attracts insects all for pollination. And you can see varieties of colors in corolla. And then comes the essential whorls, which are the two essential whorls, gynoecium and androecium. Gynoecium is made up of three parts. One is stigma, style and ovary. You can see the topmost part of the flower is called as the stigma. The middle pipe-like structure is called as the style, and the last base is called as the ovary. This is the gynoecium. This is the female part. And the androecium contains anther and the filament. You can see the head-like part of the flower, which is called as the anther, and the tube-like structure below that is called as the filament. This is the androecium. So you understood the structure of flower? Okay. The flower can be bisexual as well as unisexual. What is the meaning of bisexual, children? Bisexual, by the name itself, two sex. That means if both the whorls, if both the androecium and gynoecium are present in the same flower, okay, some flowers will have only male part of the flower, that means only androecium. Some flowers will have only gynoecium. But if the flower has got both the androecium and gynoecium together, like the hibiscus, have you all seen? I showed you all in 9th standard also, we have seen hibiscus. I have shown you over there androecium as well as gynoecium. So both are present in the same flower. It is called as the bisexual. Some are unisexual, that means only gynoecium is present. They are called as the female flower. If only androecium is present in the flower, it is called as the male flower. Examples of them are papaya, cucumber, watermelon. They are all unisexual. That means they have either male or female. That is example of unisexual flowers are papaya, cucumber, watermelon. All these contains only in one sex, that is either male or female. That is one unisexual. Examples are these. More than this also are there. Okay, coming to the next. So we saw about bisexual. That means both the androecium and gynoecium are present in the same flower. Unisexual means any one mentioned, that is either androecium will be present in the flower or either gynoecium will be present. If androecium is only present, it is called as a male flower. If only gynoecium is present in the flower, it is called as the female flower. Okay, examples of bisexual flower is rose, hibiscus, all are bisexual. Example of unisexual flower is papaya, cucumber, watermelon, all these are unisexual flowers. Understood this? Okay. See the example, this is the female flower, and we cannot find out the difference when you see it like this. But when we see the very keenly inside, only the male part is present, only androecium is present, then it is the male flower. If only gynoecium is seen in the flower, it is the female flower. Okay. Now, the flowers which have a stalk, have you all seen, children? You have the stalk of the flower, which has got a stalk, is called as the pedestal. The stalk of the flower is called what? Pedestal. And such flowers which has got the pedestal are called as pedicellate. What are they called? Pedicellate. Hibiscus, rose, they have got stalk which is called as pedestal. So those flowers are called as pedicellate. Whereas some flowers are without the stalk, they are called as sessile. Okay, it is called as sessile. That means they don't have pedicel in them. Androecium is the whorl which are members are called as stamens. There is another name for the androecium. Their members are called as the stamens. And gynoecium is a female worm, and the members are called as carpels. Okay, so in case they tell you carpels or what stamens, so you should understand stamens are the members of the androecium. They are called as the androecium are called as stamens. The members of the gynoecium are called as carpels. That is style, stigma, and ovary. They belong under gynoecium. Okay, now. Okay, they may be separate or united. The ovary is present at the basal of the each carpel. We saw that. So in the carpel means is the gynoecium. Okay, and the base there is the ovary, and long, that is a hollow style which comes up from the ovary, and then stigma is present at the tip of the style. Ovary contains one or more ovules. I will show you the figure. See here. This is the gynoecium. Okay. This is the carpel. If you want, you can tell it as carpel. And this is the topmost part, which is called as the stigma. And the long tube-like structure, which is called as the style. There itself I showed you. And this is called as your ovary. Inside the ovary, this you can see here, they are the ovules. Can you see the small 6 parts there? That is the ovules. So this is the structure of the gynoecium. Okay. Now let us see the next. Embryo sac is formed in each ovule by meiosis. I'll show you that also. What is in each ovary? You can see there is in each, that is all the fully it made up. It is called as the ovary. See, this fully is called as the ovary. Okay, and this one, each one is called as the ovules. Inside is called as the ovules. Now, so embryo sac is formed in each ovule by meiosis. What is formed in each ovule? Embryo sac. Each embryo sac consists of a haploid egg cell and 2 haploid polar nuclei. So inside there are 6. You saw in that ovary there are 6 ball-like structures. They are called as ovule. And so inside each ovule, what is present? Consists of 1 haploid egg cell and 2 haploid polar nuclei. So inside each one there are 1 haploid egg cell and 2 haploid polar nuclei. You can see the diagram of it. See here. See, this is one ovule. Inside one ovule, this is 1, 2, 3 like that. Inside each, that is embryo sac is formed inside that. Inside the embryo sac, this is the inside part of the embryo sac. You can see this figure. See, there are one egg cell is here, and 2 polar nucleus. You can see here 2 polar nucleus. So inside you can see the embryo sac. There are egg cell, 1 egg cell, and 2 polar nucleus is present inside that embryo sac. Understood? Now, what happens during pollination? What is meant by pollination? So male and female parts are present in the same flower, or it can be from the different flower. Pollen grains, pollen grains. Have you all touched the rose petals, children? When you take the rose in your hand for some time and see, you can see yellowish powder in your hand. That is the pollen grains. So pollen grains from anther are transferred into the stigma. This is called as the pollination. So the pollen grains which are like inside, which is present in the anther, that is the male part of the flower, is transferred into the stigma. This is called as pollination. So pollination occurs with the help of abiotic factors as well as biotic agents. What are the abiotic? Like water, wind, when there is a nice heavy wind. So pollen grains are transferred from same flower or from other flower also. And biotic means from insects. So insects get attracted with the color of the flower, or for the sake of nectar they come to the flower. That time this pollen grains get attached to the flower, to the insects, and when they go to the other flower, that pollen grains fall into that stigma of that other flower. So this is called as pollination. So what happens during pollination? The stigma, how come the pollen grains are able to stick to the stigma? So during pollination, the stigma becomes sticky. So you all know any powder can stick to that. So this pollen grains are in powder. They will stick to the stigma, and the pollen germinates when they fall upon the sticky stigma. So what happens when the pollen grains fall on that stigma? They will start germinating, and after when they germinate, a long tube like pollen tube and two male gametes are formed. What is formed when the pollen grains fall on the stigma, which is sticky? What will be formed? A pollen tube. Okay, a tube like structure. I showed you in the figure itself. A tube like structure is formed and two male gametes are formed inside this. And this pollen tube, it is like a long tube. It will carry this male gametes inside up to the ovule. You can see here. See the figure. Okay, this is the pollen grains will fall on the stigma over here. Okay, when it falls on the stigma, you can see here a long tube like structure which is formed, which is called as a pollen tube. Understood? Okay, pollen tube reaches the embryo sac via style. What happens? The pollen tube reaches the embryo sac through the style. It reaches the embryo sac. The tip of the pollen tube bursts and two male gametes are released into the embryo sac. So what happens to that? So that pollen tube bursts. When it reaches the embryo sac, the pollen tube bursts open and the two male gametes are released into the embryo sac. Out of the two male gametes, what happened? One male gamete unites with the egg cell. So out of the two male gametes, one unites with the egg cell to form the zygote. So what happens to the next male gamete? The next male gamete, that is the second male gamete, unite with the polar nuclei. I told you first, is that there are two polar nuclei. Unites with the two polar nuclei and endosperm is formed. Okay, as two nuclei participate in this process, it is called as the double fertilization. So endosperm means it gives nutrition for that part of that plant. Okay, for the seed. So a second male gamete unites with the two polar nuclei and endosperm is formed. As two nuclei participate in this process, it is called as what? Double fertilization. I will show you the figure here. Okay, see, this is style, stigma, this is stigma, style and ovary. Okay, and here you can see the pollen grains. When it is sticking to the stigma here, a long tube is formed and there are a tube that is called as a pollen tube, and it carries two male gametes to the ovules over here, and inside when it reaches the embryo sac over here, it bursts open. What the tube, pollen tube bursts open and one gamete fuses with the egg cell, and one other male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei, and that's when two nuclei are involved. That's why it is called as a double fertilization. Okay, children, we learned this is fully about the sexual reproduction in flower. We learned the essential words, that are the four essential words we learned. Four words we learned. They are the androecium, gynoecium, corolla, calyx. Calyx and corolla are called as what? Accessory whorls. Essential whorls are, which are the essential whorls? Androecium and gynoecium. Okay, and we learned about the bisexual flower. When both androecium and gynoecium are present in the same flower, it is called as a bisexual flower. If either androecium or gynoecium is present in a flower, it is called as the unisexual flower. And what happens during the pollination? We saw the stigma becomes sticky. When the stigma becomes sticky, the pollen grains from the stamen falls on this. You have seen the pollen grains, I know, that falls on the stigma and a pollen tube is formed. Okay, and inside that there will be two male gametes, and these two male gametes, they reach the ovules. When they come to the embryo sac, the pollen tube will burst open, and what will happen? And one male gamete fuses with the egg cell, another male gamete fuses with the two polar nuclei. So this method of reproduction is sexual reproduction and is called as the double fertilization, because it involves two nuclei in this process. Understood, children? Hope you all understood the full sexual reproduction. Okay, we will continue with sexual reproduction in animals in the next video. Okay, children, till we meet, bye bye. Thank you.